Hello friends, I hope you've all been enjoying the new season of Last Epoch. I know I've been enjoying it immensely and at an unhealthy level if you were to look at the length of my VODs, and I don't have any plans to stop anytime soon. I did want to make just a quick video to review how you approach the endgame and what to do when you start it, as it's a question I've gotten many times in my stream chat as I've been playing. So first off, once you finish the campaign, or you jumped ahead of the campaign, which is totally up to you, you're going to reach the end of time. You can go here at any time once you've unlocked it and head across this bridge, heading across to the Monolith of Fate. This is your first introduction to the Monolith of Fate system, which is the endgame system you're going to be spending most of your time on. You go over here and click this little floating pyramid, and I'm going to pick normal. You won't see this window right away with a new character. This is your first look at the Echo system. Let me briefly explain how echoes work. Echoes are their own individual maps that are randomized, usually based on the layout it says. This one is Desert Canyons. On the right, you can see the echo information. There are enemy modifiers, player modifiers, and rewards. Rewards are visual on the top of the echo, as well as listed on the right. Enemy modifiers are what happens with the enemies on the echo. Player modifiers are things like your rarity and experience percent that you get. Echo rewards are the item and the stability. We can look here to see the same thing with this echo information, except it's trying to explicitly explain that all modifiers last for 2 echoes, meaning this echo and the echo following it will have these enemy modifiers and player modifiers. You do want to keep this in mind when going through echoes, though most players do tend to ignore it. It could stack up these effects and make your echoes extremely difficult. So what happens? We go into an echo, we start killing monsters. When you complete the echo, you get that top timeline stability right there, and the bonus stability. Bonus stability starts at 0 and goes up as you kill monsters. You can max it out, but that's not suggested. It's supposed to be a bonus, just something extra that you gain. Stability is for moving this bar up top. You can even see a representation of what it will give you and what it could give you up here, depending on which echo you have highlighted at the time. You want to progress your stability across these quest echoes until you reach the final one. Quest echoes are on the left, and you do them one by one until you reach the third, which is the timeline boss. Defeating the timeline boss does 2 things. It unlocks choices of a blessing at random, as well as unlocks the pathway to the new Monoliths of Fate. The suggested route, because the blessings that you get by doing it are directly affected to player power, is to go up the right, from Fall the Outcast to Black Sun, to Ending the Storm, to Reign of Dragons, to Age of Winter, Last Rune, and Spirits of Fire. These can be done in any order, but are the final monoliths you do before unlocking Empowered. On the left, the blessings that you get are more things like drop rate and shard drop rate. On the right, however, you get actual player power that affects your damage or defenses. This is why most people choose to do these. And when you get to the top, Age of Winter and Spirits of Fire are the player power ones. Each timeline is the same. You're going to fill up your stability, you're going to do the quest echoes, you're going to kill the timeline boss, and then you're going to get up to the level 90 timelines. Once you reach level 90 monoliths and you complete them in whatever order you like, defeating the third and final timeline boss of these 3 will summon a Harbinger. Harbingers are your introduction to the Forgotten Knights faction, an endgame faction which will lead you through the endgame loop of corruption and how to do it. Corruption is numerical value that you can slide up and down depending on what you prefer. To raise your corruption, you would go straight out in your echo web as far as you can, until you eventually see a node that looks like this. This is the Echo of a World, and it contains the Shade of Orbis boss fight. Killing the Shade of Orbis resets the entire web back to the default from when you started, and randomizes it, and gives you corruption. Shade of Orbis only offers 6 corruption, but killing a boss gives you something called Gaze of Orbis. So when you kill the timeline boss, you get 1 Gaze of Orbis. The number of Gaze of Orbis you get can be affected by things like your Forgotten Knight rank, or a Harbinger needle, which can drop from the Harbingers. It consumes up to 4 Gazes of Orbis to increase your corruption even more. If your corruption becomes too high, or it becomes too difficult, you can also go to the Sanctuary of Atera, which will spawn right at the beginning of your echoes, and allow you to lower your corruption or reset it to the base of 100 and empowered entirely. Corruption can be raised in non-empowered monoliths as well, though it is preferred to do it empowered, where the base starts at 100. Now the question is, what does corruption do? Well, if you've been looking at the screen, you'll probably see in the bottom left, we do have some numerical values here. This is one of my current timelines that I've been pushing in endgame. It's at 494 corruption, so the numbers are fairly high. The main thing you want to pay attention to is the purple skull, where you'll see the exact enemy health and damage value. So as you can see, enemies become stronger and they become more deadly as you go up in difficulty. Down here though, we have the player modifiers, which are also affected by corruption. We have things like item rarity and experience. So the scaling difficulty actually increases the reward, as it should be. More risk, more reward. That's how corruption works. You scale it up or down depending on what you want to do, and decide what difficulty you're comfortable with. So now that we've talked about corruption, let's talk about the Forgotten Knight faction. Once you kill that first Harbinger, you'll be sent to Empowered Monoliths. These are level 100 monoliths where you can increase your corruption from 100 up to whatever you like. And the Forgotten Knights faction leads you through that by the hand. Your first mission will be to clear a timeline. The good thing about Empowered Monoliths is you don't have to go through all the quest echoes. Once you have a full stability bar, you can just go straight for the timeline boss. Killing the timeline boss will summon one of the Harbingers. The first one will be summoned on 100 corruption, and once you kill it, you'll get a quest to go back and talk to the lady at the hub. This Harbinger chart in the faction window, reached by pressing the Y key, actually shows you where you you have or haven't defeated a Harbinger. The mission here is to defeat one in every timeline. When you defeat one, the corruption requirement to summon the next goes up by 25. So if I fight the Harbinger of Defilement and follow the Outcast at 100, I would need to fight the Harbinger of Hatred in the Black Sun at 125. Otherwise, he just won't be summoned. This continues to raise the corruption in increments of 25 until you reach 300 for your final Harbinger. And each one you defeat sequentially increases a rank in the Forgotten Knights as you go talk to the NPC at the Shattered Road. Once you've reached a certain rank and beaten all the Harbingers, you'll be offered the ability to fight Aberoth by using a Harbinger Eye. Harbinger Eyes are a key item that the Harbingers will drop, and you will get a pretty plentiful amount of them when you defeat them. Once this is all said and done, you'll most likely be at 300 corruption on whatever timeline you ended on. 300 corruption is kind of the standard, as once you're at 300 corruption, as you can see up here on the minimum required corruption, it's to summon a Harbinger. Harbingers offers things like Harbinger's Needles and extra loot that they themselves drop. This is a big part of the endgame mechanic and makes every boss fight kind of a double boss fight when you're clearing timelines. You do have the option to just not summon them when you actually go into an Echo, which is nice if you don't want to deal with them. Aberoth is kind of the endgame boss of the current game, and there's even an uber version of him you can fight at 500 corruption. Though the fight is extremely difficult and has not been defeated by many people as of the making of this video, if that is your goal, I wish you the best of luck, but it's going to take a lot of time of grinding and learning the fight. There's a lot of different kinds of echoes you're going to run into, from arenas to beacons to various different layouts and fun options. But now that we've talked about the basics of Monoliths, how to progress them, how to get through them, let's talk about one of the other endgame systems, which is the Woven faction. You're going to start seeing Tombs of the Erased as you go through your Monoliths. These are optional little gates that'll be flashing that you go through. They're procedurally generated areas full of monsters you kill and cool different Weaver idols that you get as a reward, and even a boss at the end, and the ability to enchant class-specific idols once you get to the end of them. Now, as for the faction, to unlock it, it's a little different. What you need to do is you need to progress around your Monoliths until you see one of these. This is called a Cemetery of the Erased. They always look the same pretty much on your Monolith tree. When you find this Echo, you complete it. It's one giant tomb, you go through it, you defeat a boss. Once you've defeated the boss for the first time, you're going to get an updated quest about the Woven faction, and when you leave either the Monolith via the portal at the end or just your own portal, you'll be ported over to the Haven of Silk. The Haven of Silk is its own little hub where you'll talk to the NPC and progress the quest and unlock the Woven faction, meaning you will now get Memory Amber. Memory Amber, which is used to enchant your idols, or respec your Weaver tree, or even buy new Woven Echoes. So let's talk about those two things. First off is the Weaver tree. I won't go far in depth to this or say what I think might be the best option, as I think that's still a variable. It's up to each player for their own desire and their own playstyle, and there is no defined meta yet. I personally really like the Loot Lizards, I like Champions, I like all of the extra item drop nodes, and I like the nodes to increase Woven Echo drops. Like I said, there is no defined meta for this. Do what you want, look through the tree, choose what you like. Other than the Weaver tree, we have the Woven Echoes. Woven Echoes are a new item that drops and allows you to add custom echoes to your Monolith tree. Each echo gives you a Weaver passive point when you complete it, so not only do you get them from ranking up with the Weaver faction, but you get them from completing Woven Echoes. To put an echo on your tree, you need to complete a Cemetery of the Erased. At the end, there will be a large altar that allows you to click on it, and it'll access your entire Monolith tree. At this point, you can start adding on Woven Echoes wherever you like and however many you prefer. They chain out almost infinitely, and you can just make a giant chain of them and run them. It's really cool. Each Woven Echo does something different. You can simply hover over it in your Woven Echoes inventory to look at what it does. Some of them are extremely powerful and offer great crafting options. Others are straight up boss fights, and others are fun, crazy events to do. They all offer their own player agency, extreme points of power, and have a lot of interesting things to do involving crafting. They scale up to where they start requiring corruption from 100 all the way to 300 and 500, which is mostly just Uber Aberoth. The main thing you want to pay attention to early is if they have a little green plus to them like this one. Little green plus means completing this echo will give you a Weaver passive point, which is important for filling out your Weaver tree and empowering what you can do with your Monoliths. The important thing about the Weaver tree is it affects all your Monoliths and all the echoes that you do in them, so you want to fill that out as fast as possible. This is the endgame loop. You're going to go to Monoliths, you're going to kill monsters, you're going to farm bosses, you're going to farm loot, and you're going to have a good time. And you're going to be able to scale that difficulty as high as you want while mixing in Woven Echoes, the Weaver tree, and customizing the content how you like. This season has added a great level of player agency, and I hope you're having a great time with it. This was just a quick video on how to get started in Monoliths for those of you that don't know. If you'd like to see more things, please leave it in the comments or drop by my stream at any time, and I'll be happy to answer questions and help you as much as I can if I'm not dying in Monoliths myself and getting lamowed at by my chat. In a follow-up video, I'll go over some of the crafting and how you approach that, as well as how to do some of the dungeons, as that's involved. But for now, I'm Sleepy Cat, and I'm tired. Good night.